All right. Another day, and we continue this Silent Hill 2 remake story playthrough. We're doing hard difficulty, hard action, hard riddle, playing on the PS5. This is part 3, after having just finished the apartments. And let's take a quick look here, because if you do go back in, all this area, we can't quite go back into the actual arena where like we fought Pyramid Head, but you can see this whole section kind of reverts back to normal, no longer otherworldly. Illuminati. But just a cool detail. Not too many, not everybody's gonna backtrack and look at this place after the fight, but compare that to how it looked leaving out of the building at the end of part 2 of this playthrough, compared to how it looks here. We're back out into the town streets. We've got Laura, our cutscene with Laura right around here. Before we go in and trigger that scene, just want to look at some of the details here in the alley leading up to it. You can see there back into the pool and courtyard area from the apartments. Which, it's interesting that they never, like, open this. But I guess that makes sense. And once you being able to go back into the apartments, it would be interesting if they'd let you at least go back into the little pool area once you're done. Not into the buildings themselves. But just some of these little changes. The town layout, how the streets and buildings and everything connect. I do feel that's one thing that Bloober did pretty well with this game. Just sort of the slight changes to the town layout. It's all still very, very similar, very familiar compared to the original. But the layout is a little bit more fluid. I feel like it's a bit more natural traversing from place to place. All right, go talk to Laura.
Hey, it was you, wasn't it? You're the one who stepped on my hand.
Maybe I did.
What's a little girl like you doing here anyway?
I don't know. What's a big dum-dum like you doing here anyway?
Hey, that's not very nice. Didn't your parents teach you any manners? What you got there?
None of your business. You didn't love Mary anyway.
What? Hey, wait! How do you know her name?
I like the little subtle changes to this scene. There's a lot of the scenes in this where some of the changes compared to the original in terms of like dialogue and stuff are a little bit off, but this one I like that little change, how they reworded I do kind of miss the more ambiguous, like, huh, are you blind or something? Just because it left more open to interpretation. It feels a little bit more deliberate with what Laura is kind of perceiving and how she's talking to James. I like the little, what's a big dum-dum like you, how she kind of throws it back at him and is still insulting him in her little childlike ways, because she doesn't like him. She doesn't like James. He treated Mary poorly in her final days, and Mary, was very close with Laura, would have talked to her about those things. And Laura probably was around. She may have even seen James some of the times that he would have gone to visit Mary. Very possible that she had seen him before, but when Mary was kind of in the worst of her illness, she was lashing out at James. So Laura would interpret that as, James is bad. My favorite part about that interaction now, though, is when James responds after that. And he says, like, oh, didn't your parents teach you any manners? And you see Laura, like, tense and clutch Mary's letter. So the idea that, she is an orphan. She doesn't have any parents. And that comment from James, we see her react to it like she's genuinely hurt by it. And the fact that she, like, clutches the letter when thinking about that as a reactionary thing also, to me, kind of gives the impression of, she loved Mary. Mary loved her. Mary writes to Laura saying she would have adopted her if things had been different. And in many ways, I feel like Laura probably felt the same about Mary. Mary kind of felt like Laura was her, not legally, but spiritually adopted daughter. And Laura probably looked up to Mary as a mother figure. So we see, James makes a comment about the parents. And Laura, she reacts. She feels that hurt, but she also thinks about Mary and clutches that letter even closer. Hey, Pseudopoint, welcome. No, we do not ever know why Laura was in the hospital. I like how there's some big mural wall art in this area alongside Laura's little doodles. Well, all of this, like this whole texture here with the flowers, the bear, the cat, this is all like very, very faithfully recreated from the original texture, to the point where I thought they were the original textures, just like ripped, but they have been recreated by Bloober Team just super, super faithfully. Pythonicus, thank you so much for the 42 months. Although they are much more worn out in this version compared to the original. Some people, if you subscribe to the loop theory, some people take that as being like, this is the 20 years worth of wear and tear that the original Laura, would have drawn this, and it's become much more worn off and faded in the 20 years since. Kind of an interesting visual change. Shadow Noises, thank you so much for the 12 months, that full year of support. Thank you, thank you. Hope you're doing well today. If you listen really closely right here, I'm going to start walking through this tunnel towards Rosewater Park. Throughout the playthrough, I've been trying to point out these instances where you hear one of Mary's final breaths. You hear a gasp from Mary during the videotape scene in the hotel. And all throughout this playthrough, there's moments where you'll hear a little gasp, just very brief sound effect. And this tunnel is one of those instances. Right there. So that is one of Mary's final breaths being taken. And they add that little sound effect in periodically. That's, I think, the third time that you hear it up to this point in the game. So all of these particular segments love the audio design. They did such a great job. That's one of the things that really mattered to me the most, because the original audio design is so well done. There's so many layers to it. There's a lot of really great subtle ambient sounds, and Remake was faithful to that and then also added a lot more. What's the significance of the places where you can hear Mary's sighs? I wish I had more of a concrete answer, but at this point, I'm not sure. You would think that maybe they were significant areas to James and Mary, like this one is Rosewater Park. So this is a place that they would have been together when they were here. That could be just like James's memory sort of kickstarting. He's remembering these nice things, but ever so subtly, just from that one breath, his mind is also trying to recall what he's done as well. The real reason why he's here. But we hear it in some other places, like the Saul Street apartments, which theoretically would have been a place that James and Mary never went to. They didn't live here. They were here for vacation. They didn't stay like in those apartments or anything. So there are some areas that have more personal significance to their own story, but then there's other areas that they're not personally significant, but they are still necessary for progression. So they could also be more clues to the player rather than necessarily just something specific to James and Mary as well. Still wonder what was behind that closed door in Saul Street Apartments? Well, good news, Web Talks. After this story playthrough is done, the next playthrough that I'm doing will be cam hacked. So we will break the camera and look at the other side of that door. We'll be breaking all the barriers. We'll be looking at everything in and out of bounds. course, there's also several moments like this throughout the game where you find James's jacket. You find one just before the windstorm that forces you to go to Woodside Apartments. And now we see one laying here in Rosewater Park. Again, still speculating on some of these things. Like, the original game, you had James's corpse everywhere, and this game stays true to that. But then some of these new elements, like just his jacket by itself, instead of like a corpse or whatever being there, seems to be a recurring theme. Think there's nothing behind the door, but we'll see. Most likely there's nothing actually rendered there. The majority of the time. If something is not meant to be shown to the player, you wouldn't waste resources like rendering something. But I've already done a little bit of playing around with the cam hack, and I've already seen some other content creators who've done cam hacks for this. So there are very specific Easter eggs and things that Bloober Team put in that are out of bounds that require a cam hack to see. So you never know what you might find, because they knew how obsessive Silent Hill fans are when making this game. They knew people were going to tear it down, you know, to the very like raw files and assets and look at everything, whether it's intended to be looked at or not. And they were smart enough to include some little Easter eggs and things just for the people who dig that deeply. So it'll be fun going through and looking around, just to see if we can find all the little things that that they've hidden. Here we have the Silent Hill Tourist pamphlet, written by Roger Widmark. This is from the original game as well. It was also in Silent Hill 3, reused. Welcome to Silent Hill, a quiet little lakeside resort town. We're happy to have you. There's no better place than here to let go of your busy schedules and finally enjoy a relaxing vacation. Rows of quaint, rustic houses mark a gorgeous mountain landscape, and as the dawn turns to dusk, the surface of Toluca Lake shines a whole range of dreamlike colors. Silent Hill will move you and fill your heart with peace. We're more than certain your time here will be pleasant and leave you with memories that will stay with you forever. And even though when you examine this, the text doesn't say it, you can see down there at the bottom right, editor Roger Widmark. They still keep the editor's name and everything compared to the original. The pamphlet itself is slightly rewritten, but for the most part, it's the same. And of course, all the little local spots and things. Great tourist pamphlet. As like a mock-up, you've got the Neely's Bar photo down there in the bottom left. The advertisement on the left side, girls' night every weekend over at Bar Neely's. Happy hour at Neely's Bar every Friday. That means half price for beer. Neely's have wide range of top beers you have to check. And there is actually several Easter eggs on the brands of beer that are on the beer taps in Bar Neely's, as well as the Venus Tears Bar, which is found in the Lakeview Hotel at the end. So there's some cool Easter eggs with that. Pete's Bowlerama. Of course, got the bowling alley up on the top left. Silent Hill Historical Society, a place that James and Mary went. According to Masahiro Ito, when James and Mary were in town for their vacation, they went to the Historical Society and they saw the picture, the painting of the town's executioners, because it's part of the town's history, and seeing that painting is why Pyramid Head takes on that form, is because James and Mary had been to the Historical Society while they were here, saw that painting that represented the executioners, looks like Pyramid Head, and so Pyramid Head was able to take that form based on it already being in James's mind from when he and Mary were here. We've got the boat trips advertisement for the boat launch, which is right next to the Historical Society. Jack's Inn, which we'll be visiting with Maria here in just a moment. And Quiet Cocktails, which was a billboard that you could find on the side of Nathan Avenue in the original. And T's Italian Restaurant, which was also a location in the OG. And they emphasized T's Italian Restaurant even more in the remake. The window displays have pizza boxes, and they're All Stars Pizza. So this was Bloober Team trying to answer the age-old question, where did Eddie get his pizza from? Apparently it's from T's Italian Restaurant. Because there is no place called All Stars. But apparently All Stars is just like a brand that is served at T's Italian Restaurant. Hey, Agent 501. Hope you're doing well. It refers to James's alcoholism. I mean, there are more direct references to James's alcoholism, like especially when we get to Heaven's Night. We get like a whole cutscene kind of dedicated to it. In the original game, it was just like one line of dialogue. One line of optional, non-voiced dialogue. When you examine some empty bottles that are in the back, like, hallway part of Heaven's Night. So they tried to emphasize that aspect of James a little bit more for the remake. I don't think just mentions of the bar or anything like that are necessarily references to James's alcoholism, because keep in mind, Silent Hill is a tourist town. It is specifically made for tourists. What do tourists want to do? What do you want to do on your vacation? You know, you want to have attractions, you want to have things to do, and you want to have bars to go and get drunk at. So it's not, I don't think, necessarily something specific to James. There's a lot of things that are just, you know, a natural part of a tourist town. And then we also get these little glimpses and bits and pieces of history from these statues as well. Patrick Chester, son of Edward, he fought and died for the people, for liberty and for all of our tomorrows. His memory lives on. His memory lives on, but his statue's head does not. Not even the horse. Still depicted the way it was in the original, and I do like just how unsettling, like, non-specific a lot of this stuff is. It's just good, creepy, environmental stuff. The statues that are worn and broken. Something just sort of naturally unnerving about seeing human forms. Ooh. There's our audio cue for the blue gem. So whenever that sound happens, that's your clue that it's time to examine your blue gem. If you're going for the UFO ending, which this playthrough, hopefully, we will show off multiple endings. Ideally, I want to show the UFO ending, the dog ending, the rebirth ending, and the in-water ending. If I do everything right, we should be able to see all 4 of those by just reloading the last save and doing things slightly different at the very end. Oh, and Bliss. We should be able to do Bliss as well, I think. The only one that we'll have to wait until the next playthrough will be Stillness. Because Stillness requires an in-water playthrough first. So that's why I'm hoping I'll get in-water for this one. I also like that they redesigned a lot of these areas compared to how they were in the original. And rather than just changing them without any sort of context for why they're different, they did it in a very realistic way. The old dock from the original game is still there. You can still see it down in the water. So you can see where, like, there used to be this older level for the dock and for the park that lines up more with how it looked in the original game. But the water level is now higher. So they had to rebuild this section so that the dock and these walkways and stuff are higher up above the water level. So it's like, okay, that's why Rosewater Park looks different. Is there a part of the city under the water, though? The town itself, no. Because we're just talking about right here where the lake meets the shore. Where the change in water level would be more noticeable. We see it again at the boat launch next to the Historical Society. But for the rest of the town, you know, that's inland enough that it's not really affected by the change in water level. Noise created. Thank you so much for the 82 months. That is a long time. A lot of love and support. Thank you, thank you. Hello, Mr. Streamer. Didn't have time to follow you the last months. Hope you're still doing fine. I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. Got the Rosewater Park life preserver. Wonder how many times the town has been abandoned and rebuilt. That is one of the things that the developers are like, the OG devs are very like tight-lipped about. They don't really specify the state of the town. We get little bits and pieces of how we're supposed to kind of interpret what's going on. Like Silent Hill 1, Harry talks to Lisa. Lisa talks about, you know, there were tourists, but then the local religion, the weird local cult stuff started going on. People start going missing. Weird stuff starts happening. It drives a lot of the tourists away. It drives a lot of the young locals away. So that already by the time Silent Hill 1 happens, it's basically just the cult and, you know, a few people who are unrelated that have maybe been living there for a long time or whatever and just refuse to leave. But even by Silent Hill 1's time, you know, in an overall timeline, the town was starting to become empty, other than locals. And we see changes in technology between like Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3. So Brookhaven, you go into Brookhaven in Silent Hill 2, there's a lot of typewriters. Silent Hill 3, a lot of the places where there's typewriters, they're replaced with computers. So we get the impression that there is still this like town. There should be people here. There are still things moving forward in time, and people around to like update these facilities. But a big part of Silent Hill 2 specifically is reality is not what we are perceiving. We are not seeing the town as it is. We're seeing the town as James perceives it, which is not accurate to reality. The town is able to take your own mind, your own perceptions of things, and make them real so that you can still walk around on ground that shouldn't be there, or be blocked, in places where there should be places to walk, buildings that should be there that are not, and so forth. Like, it makes it real, but it does not necessarily reflect reality to a completely outside perspective from any of the characters in Silent Hill 2. There could be a functioning, somewhat normal town at the same time. It's never specified. So that's one of those fun, larger mysteries to the overall Silent Hill franchise, that there's a lot of fan speculation on it in a lot of different theories, and the devs themselves have been asked about it directly, and that's one of those things they are very not specific about. The OG Silent Hill 2 takes place in the 70s, right? So there's some contention on that. And I think some of that can be attributed to maybe a slight mistranslation or misunderstanding from a comment by Masahiro Ito on Twitter. Ito said, I forget what the actual wording of it was. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, so Ito basically said on Twitter that he was listening to music from the 60s and 70s when he was designing a lot of stuff for Silent Hill 2. So somebody had asked him, an ambiguous song for an ambiguous game. What do you think the song is about, at least from James's point of view, if not your own? Masahiro Ito replied, that song was released in 1967, and we've set Silent Hill 2 in the late 70s or the early 80s. Also, the organ part of that song makes me feel nostalgia or regret. And he goes on kind of talking about the music, the topic. But that one little mention there, a lot of fans latched onto. We've set Silent Hill 2 in the late 70s or the early 80s. So he's not specific. He doesn't give like a specific year. And I mean, 70s, 80s, late 70s, early 80s. It's a very, it's somewhere in there, but he's not like giving a year. He's not giving anything exact. And this is where I think you kind of have to, I guess, maybe think outside the box a little bit. Because you can look at car models, you can look at technology, and based on our reality, figure out where things, when things would have happened. So there's a VHS tape. Supposedly James had a video recorder and filmed Mary during their vacation. Well, consumer grade VHS camcorders weren't really a thing until the early mid 80s. There were some in the 70s, but have you ever watched the first Ghostbusters? Cameras back then, they were huge. They were bulky. You had to have like a belt with a tape recorder completely separate to get audio. It wasn't like having a little camcorder, you know. Technology for, you know, oh, I'll bring a camera along for our vacation. The way that it's represented in this game, you know, for James to have a camera with him, film stuff on their vacation, it would be unlikely. It would be very unlikely for this game to take place in the 70s based on that technology in our understanding, our reality, in our real world. That technology released and exists in a specific time. Silent Hill 2 is a fictional game. It takes place in a fictional representation of our reality. So who's to say that in the Silent Hill 2 universe, they discovered, you know, the technology and invented consumer grade VHS cameras 10 years earlier compared to our reality, right? Who's to say? So I think it's a little bit of a fool's errand to try and use technology and timelines that are based on real, you know, real life things for a fictional setting. But going off of what Ito said, late 70s, early 80s, it's definitely the vibe. From a strictly aesthetic standpoint, that is spot on. Whether or not that lines up perfectly with technology and timelines and whatever else is another matter. Also, a lot of people speculated about James's shadow being Pyramid Head. It's not. You can see an example of just the way that it warps and stretches shadow textures on certain things. Kind of gives them slightly different geometry. There's a few things like that I've already noticed. It's just like with the original game, where fans are going to read super deep into things that aren't necessarily there. I'm guilty of this. A lot of Silent Hill fans are guilty of this. But I'm always curious to investigate that stuff further to see how much of it is intentional and how much of it is not. This is one of those things that even from before this game came out, people saw in like trailers, James's reflections, and were like, oh, his reflection is Pyramid Head. Because they see like this, you know, you see like, oh, look at that shadow, look at that reflection. It's slightly triangle shaped, but no, it's just kind of a byproduct of how the game handles reflections. Is ray tracing on? Is that a thing? Probably not. I'm playing on PS5 and I'm playing on performance mode because frame rate to me is much more important than some of the details and resolution. Yeah. You don't have like a separate ray tracing setting for PS5 the way you do on PC. In memory of the 67 who died of illness and now sleep beneath the lake. Same monument, same wording and everything as the original, referencing the people who died of the plague that swept through Silent Hill and now sleep beneath the lake. Not to mention a reference to illness Any of these times where there's mentions of illness in any degree, that I feel those are messages that are manifested. They are parts of James's subconscious that are trying to force him to think about it. Think about illness, think about Mary as a result. Because again, that is the entirety of what is happening. James is trying to come to terms. He has blocked out what he has done. He is believing a false delusion for what his life has been for the last 3 years. And that delusion only just occurred as he arrived into the town. So his whole time in the town, his subconscious is being projected onto reality around him to try to force him to break out of that delusion. So there's many things that are being manifested. A lot of the notes, perhaps even that monument itself, things that would not be there naturally in reality for somebody outside of James's perspective. But for James himself, he is encountering and interacting with these things that force him to think about what he's done, the truth. And of course, the biggest loss that we suffered compared to the remake, compared to the original, my beloved hot dog and pretzel cart. There was a little cart here that sold hot dogs and pretzels, and now it's coffee and waffles and ice cream. Rest in peace, hot dog cart. The famous hot dog meeting. It's in the cutscene. It's practically a third character when James meets Maria in the original. Can't believe they would remove such an iconic background asset from such an iconic scene. Maria flirting with James next to the hot dog pretzel cart. Lake tours and tickets. Really damaged dock. Can't wait to get my free cam and see what all is out there. See how much the water renders out, how far we can zoom the camera all the way across the lake before things stop rendering. Cam hack playthrough is going to be a lot of fun. We should get some extra dialogue by examining this fence first. You'll actually get some variation in James and Maria's dialogue, depending on how much of Rosewater you explore before going and talking to Maria. So, by checking that gate first and then going to Maria, we'll go back to it and it'll be open. And James will comment, like, wasn't this just locked? But yeah, let's go see Maria.
Mary? No. You're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No, my late wife. I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be...
My name is Maria. I don't look like a ghost, do I? See? Warm.
Sorry, I got confused.
Hey. Where are you going?
I need to find Mary.
Didn't you say she died?
Oh? Yeah. 3 years ago. It's just... I got a letter from her.
A letter?
I know how it sounds. I'm not... I don't...
Hey. It's okay. So, what did the letter say?
She said she was waiting for me. In our special place.
And that's here? Anyway, I haven't seen her. Is this your only special place?
I don't know anymore. There was something. I can't quite.
Hey! I think I might know. I mean, there's this one place. Not far from here.
What kind of place?
The kind two lovers might call special. I can show you if you want. Unless you have somewhere else to be. Something else to do. Hey, easy there. I'm just messing with you. Come on. It's this way.
You're coming with me? Can't you just tell me where it is?
You're just gonna leave me here? Alone? With all these monsters around?
No, I just...
Is it because I remind you of her? You loved her, didn't you? Didn't you?
All right, just... Come on.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
And then we pan over to show the lighthouse, which is where the hotel is, the real special place. Cue the Thundercat remix.
So,
Yeah, I love the new music in the remake and the variations of it, and specifically the bass lines add so much more to the songs now, and there's a very good reason that stands out more. Akira Yamaoka has actually mentioned and talked about this in an interview. When he was doing the soundtrack for Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2, he didn't have enough money to have a bass guitar. He literally just didn't have one and couldn't afford one. So whenever you hear bass in Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2, it's one of two things.
what are you doing?
I'm talking about stuff. Hold on. It's one of two things. It is either his regular rhythm guitar tuned down so that he can get more of a bassy tone out of it, or it is samples from various different audio CDs and sound effects CDs. Specifically, Bizarre Guitar was a set of audio CDs that Yamaoka used a lot for those original games. So those original games, like, he did not have a real bass. So everything was either synth or sampled
Are you
or a
okay?
I'm fine. I just talk a lot. I'm sorry.
We can stay for a while if you want.
But he just tuned down his guitar or used samples. So now he's got a bass guitar. Yamaoka's very successful. He can afford the bass guitar now. And boy, you can hear it. You can hear it in all of the remixes. I love all of the new versions of the music. Love it when you talk back to Maria. Oh, I got a lot to say, and sometimes Maria wants to talk over me. I don't appreciate it.
There's nothing out there but the fog.
No, that's not going to stop me from staring at it. Also, that is a blatant lie. Prefer the meeting Maria scene in the original? This one's not as good. Well, clearly this one's not as good. There's no hot dog cart. There's no pretzel cart. I will say, though, because this topic did come up in some other things, the cinematography of the cutscenes for the remake is kind of boring compared to the original. It's not enough to be bad, and it's something that I imagine most people playing this game are not even going to really pay that much attention to. But the camera movements and the cinematography is like really, really basic compared to a lot of the things that were used in the original. And I feel like that lack of dynamic camera it gives less impact to some of the scenes, but they make up for it in the performances themselves, especially the physical performances. Even if you're not necessarily a fan of the voices, which I like the voices, but the characters, the movements, the subtle things, and the performance capture is so much more detailed. I feel like they wanted to emphasize that more rather than the camera doing stuff. So the camera itself is a little more boring, but the performance capture is a lot more detailed. For example, when James is talking to Maria during that scene, I mentioned this in part 1 of the playthrough, and I saw that got mentioned in chat as well, that in part 1 of this playthrough, when we met Angela, I mentioned that James will mimic her behavior, her posture later on. We see the first example of that in this cutscene with Maria. He clutches his arm and holds it up to himself the way that Angela was doing in the graveyard when we first met her. Really little subtle things like that. James picking up on other characters' mannerisms and sort of mimicking them. And Maria also does this. One of the cool things I like about that is Maria herself, she's a manifestation. Like, she is something created that is trying to convince you that she is human, that she is real. And she picks up mannerisms and mimics them from James to try to be more convincing. They did that in the OG, but it's very limited the way that they could represent that. So it's mostly through her repeating dialogue that James has said to her back to him. Now, with these more detailed performance captures that we've got, we see it in really subtle things like James rubbing his hands, holding his arms like Angela. There's a lot more subtlety in those performance captures. So I like the emphasis on that. The camera during the scenes is just more boring. But I get why they'd focus on the characters more instead.
Strange. I could have sworn.
What? Is something wrong?
No, it's nothing.
So there. That little dialogue exchange, that only happens if you examine the gate while it's locked and then go trigger the cutscene with Maria. So James kind of acknowledging that weird stuff is happening. Doors and gates, that he just checked are, and were locked, are now suddenly unlocked. I do like that James kind of feels a little more aware of things.
Used to be kind of a special place for young couples in these parts. I think it's easier if I just show you.
And the longer we kind of spend here walking around with Maria, we'll get a lot of these little bits of optional dialogue. And I really want to listen to all of them, but I'm also worried about getting the Maria ending. I would prefer the in water ending so that on our next playthrough I can show the stillness ending. But hey, if it happens, it happens. Another mysterious photo here, so far from home. Photo number 14. Part of the mysterious photographs that, when decoded, spell out the message, "You've been here for 2 decades." One of the things that people who enjoy the loop theory point to as like the strongest evidence of the loop theory, I feel like because it is something that is such a hidden message, that it's more directed at the player, because I've been here playing Silent Hill games for 2.5 decades, so same as a lot of fans. I feel it's more of a message to the fans for figuring out the message than something necessarily relevant to James. But hey, if that's how you want to interpret it, more power to you. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah, Phoenix of the Light. That's why I also don't personally buy into the time loop theory myself. I think it's more of a nod towards popular fan theories from back when the original game released. Because that was one of the common fan theories for the first few years after Silent Hill 2 came out, before there was more developer interviews and commentary on kind of their intentions. Fans were trying to figure out a reason for like James's corpse being everywhere and stuff like that. So there were those theories from back in the day, and Bloober included a lot of references to fan theories, not just official things. So it feels more like a message to the fans. It feels more like a nod to that theory without blatantly saying like it's a time loop and it's canon. There's none of that. They haven't confirmed that there's a time loop. The devs themselves.
Just a woman. Killed for no real fault of her own by moral, upstanding folk. Common theme, I guess.
What do you mean?
And history, you know?
Some little dialogue there. Victim of persecution by the Christians, Jennifer Carroll lived with pride and honor. What happened here shall never be forgotten. Same dialogue, same statue engraving and everything as the original, referencing Jennifer Carroll, who's referenced again in Silent Hill 3 as Saint Jennifer. Unwavering faith under death's blade is how she's described as a saint in Silent Hill 3. So she was persecuted, she was imprisoned, and eventually executed by the Christians. So she's treated as a martyr to the cult because she was a member of the cult. So we get these little hints, even though the cult is not like a main presence in this game the way that they are for much of the rest of the series. We still get these very interesting little bits of like town history and lore, still showing the cult's presence and its importance, little bits of the history of it, even though they're not like here, part of the game, part of the story. I also like that we can see more of the writing. You know, even though this is blocked out the same as the text itself is blocked out, same as it was for the original. The graphic itself, you can see, you know, where it says Christians and where it has Jennifer Carroll's full name. So those things are a little less ambiguous. But they were things that have already been data mined and confirmed decades ago. So these are the types of things that I don't mind them kind of like making slightly less ambiguous. Passive-aggressive tone from Maria there towards James, talking about upstanding men killing women. Yes, and that is the thing a lot of people might forget, and it might not even be the case for the remake, because the remake kind of handles this in a different way. But in the original game, Born from a Wish is canon. Born from a Wish happened. And Born from a Wish shows us that Maria knows that James is a bad man. She remembers that he killed her. So when she's meeting James, like, she's fully aware of who she is. She knows what she is. She knows who James is. All of that is established in the original. So her having that tone about, like, you know, upstanding men killing women, if we're to assume that this Maria in the remake is the same as the original, she remembers, she knows. And it would make sense that she would make that comment. What's weird is Remake kind of also goes out of its way to show that things like the Baldwin Mansion, when we get to it, Maria will comment on it and she'll say that it gives her a bad feeling, but she won't specify why. And it doesn't, the way the performance is, it doesn't come off as like her being disingenuous, like she's lying or putting on an act, like pretending to not know. It comes off as genuine, the way that she reacts. So I feel like it's kind of ambiguous how much Remake Maria actually knows compared to OG Born from a Wish Maria. Statue here, woman kneeling down with a young girl. Again, I feel like these are things that are meant to be representative of people in James's mind. It's meant to represent Mary and Laura.
Want to take a breather?
What? No, I just... Sorry, I'm just a bit preoccupied.
It's fine. You know, if there's anything you want to talk about, anything at all.
No. Let's just keep moving.
I will say, even though I'm usually not a fan of the, like, character following you around and talking constantly, there are moments where it goes a little too far and it gets a little bit annoying. I do like that we get more of Maria's character and her relationship with James through these little interactions. Like, she's trying to get him to open up. She is genuinely trying to get him to kind of think about things, talk about things, which again kind of leads me to believe that, much like the original, she's already aware of what happened. You know, that she is Mary reincarnated, essentially, that she remembers James killing her, being responsible for that. And it feels like she's kind of prodding him, like, do you want to talk about something? Is there something you want to admit to? So I don't know. It's interesting though. I like that they've got these little moments. And James just shuts her down. You want to talk to me about anything? No. Just keep moving. Me, heart, she. Do you think Born from a Wish still happened and Silent Hill made her forget? It's hard to say. Really hard to say. Like I said, there's moments where Maria genuinely seems like she's not sure why things feel familiar or why they give her a bad feeling, which would imply she doesn't know, or that potentially Born from a Wish didn't happen. And then there's dialogue like that kind of hints that maybe she does know, so maybe that was intentional, just to try to leave things a little bit more open-ended and ambiguous.
There, we can go through the motel.
We come up to Jackson, and she points it out, but we can get some more dialogue by running around and exploring without going there directly first.
You think it'll stare back?
Think it'll stare back. Hold on, let me... He who is bold enough to stare into the abyss. So that is a little bit of foreshadowing to the note, the letter and the wrench from the original and used in this game as well. But one of the first clues you get, he who is not bold enough to be stared at from across the abyss is not bold enough to stare into it himself. The truth can only be learned by marching forward. So that is the dialogue from the hospital director's note from the original, and like I said, in the remake as well, left for James to direct him to the Rosewater Park hidden key for the Historical Society. And again, kind of interesting. We come across our abyss, and Maria even mentions being stared at, expecting it to stare back as a little nod to that.
Not getting through here.
No reason to. It's the wrong way anyway.
Andy's Pizza. Billboard that was in the OG as well. One that I always took the time to point out specifically to talk about Eddie's Pizza, because Eddie's Pizza is from a place called All Stars. And we know that there's this billboard for some place called Andy's, but that's not what Eddie had. And again, Remake sort of retcons or implies that it came from the local Italian restaurant, T's Italian. I do really like the recreated jacks in. Low rates, cable color, TV, kings and queens. I love the music here, but it always makes me think of Diablo music.
The walls are so thin you can hear everything. Love, hate, jealousy.
Tell me this guitar doesn't just invoke Tristram in your mind. And of course, it's not really. There it is. Stay a while and listen. Gives Last of Us vibes? Well, I guess maybe that's the younger generation reference. My brain goes to fucking Diablo from 35 years ago. Sorry. I'm old. Gotta get the combo for the safe. Ooh, and this I remember. This I remember should be different on hard mode as well. I might need some paper and a pen and a calculator, because if I remember correctly, the hard mode for this, you gotta do math. If anyone needs anything, I'm fixing the pipes at 107. Write that down. Sir, I'm almost 30. Pablo, I'm almost 40. So that's enough of an age gap where you might think you hear jangly guitar and think Last of Us. I hear jangly guitar and think Tristram. This hard difficulty puzzle's so annoying. Well, this is my first time playing on hard. As said, I'm somewhat familiar with some of the puzzle difficulty changes, but this is my first time like doing it all myself, so we'll see if it annoys me.
James? Is everything all right?
I love this. Our first save point with Maria with us. And she comments, James, you good? So for her, like, she's just seeing him stare off like this.
Hey, you okay? It's like you froze for a second.
Yeah, it's fine.
Does it ever acknowledge if she even sees the red paper? She doesn't comment on it. Like, she just says that James is staring off, like he froze. So, I don't think she's aware of these, the save points themselves. She never really comments on them directly. I will say, this is gonna sound stupid. Whatever, you guys know how obsessive I am about Silent Hill stuff, so it won't be that stupid. There was a recent post on the Silent Hill subreddit where a person who has been doing a lot of going into the game and ripping assets and finding files and unused stuff has been posting a lot of their stuff on Twitter and Reddit. And while I do find the actual assets and things themselves interesting, this person's interpretations of that information seem to be a little bit far-fetched. And one of the things that person posted on the subreddit somewhat recently was later on in the scene where Maria's in the jail cell after she's died again, and James goes to see her. It closes up on James's face, and in James's eyes, in the reflection of the room on James's eyeball, Maria is not there. The room is there, the bed is there, but Maria is not there. So this person saw that and immediately posted it with like, look at this crazy detail. So I got my free cam software working and did some testing, and it turns out that's just how the game is made to work with the cube maps. None of the characters reflect in each other's eyes. None of them do. The characters' eye reflections are a cube map of the environment and light sources. So if you zoom in super close on their eyeballs, it's reflecting the environment that they're in, it's reflecting light sources that they're in, but it's not reflecting character models. So it's not a super crazy detail. It was not an intentional thing to make like just Maria not reflect in James's eyes or anything like that. It's just a case of somebody finding something and theorizing way too much about it. I am guilty of this, so I can't say anything. I thought Cammy was in Heaven's Night in the original Silent Hill 2. I have no room to talk. So I just thought it was interesting, and at the very least, that post inspired me to go and look deeper into the reflections and get the free cam software working, and figure out some details because of that. So that was just one of those things that I thought was interesting. But yeah. Hey, classic Silent Hill fandom right there. Take something that is just kind of the result of making the game more of a technical thing than anything else, and applying meaning to it. But hey, some people get excited to discover something. I get it. Hey, it is interesting knowing that the cube maps are even that detailed, even if their interpretation of that information was far-fetched. It is interesting seeing that the characters even have that much detail reflected in their eyes, when very, very rarely, without like cam hacks and stuff, do you ever even see the character's eyes that close. They could have just had fairly static textures for the eyes with like reflection points.
Locked.
And
Strange.
People wouldn't have really
Why is
even
that
noticed.
strange?
Never mind. Let's find a way to get it open.
But hey, props to Bloober for actually taking the time to like show environmental reflections and light source reflections in characters' eyes. Like that is an impressive detail on its own, even if their theory around, you know, Maria not being in the reflection isn't really a thing. It's still an impressive detail. Wonder if that line was meant to imply Maria came through here earlier. Yes. Sorry, I kind of got sidetracked there, but that dialogue with Maria, she hesitates. She acts like this was not supposed to be here. This gate was not supposed to be closed. And yes, that implies that she would have been here at some point. She would have come through here at some point. Baldwin Mansion's right over there. So if Maria would have been going from Baldwin Mansion to Rosewater Park to meet James, just like she does in the original, she would have come right through this gate because the road is collapsed over there. And she even commented on it, like, are you going to stare back at the abyss? So that road was collapsed. She would have come through this direction and gone to Rosewater Park that way. Forget Born from a Wish, does it end when she meets James? Yes. The very ending of Born from a Wish is Maria deciding that she will not kill herself. She throws her revolver away, and she goes and meets James at Rosewater Park. And then we hear the James Maria, meeting dialogue over a black screen. Well, in the OG, she leaves through the apartments, but that is a result of the town layout just being different. Everything is switched around now. The Baldwin Mansion is way over here now, as opposed to being next to the apartments. It's still there. The apartments are still there. Baldwin Mansion is still across this little street here. But the apartments are down here instead of being further east, right? So because of this little layout change for this intersection, it forces her only route to Rosewater being through Jack's Inn.
Cozy.
This room. There's something wrong with it. I think we should leave.
Oh, loosen up, James. It sure beats running around with those monsters out there.
I'm not so sure.
Probably one of my favorite Easter eggs. So this is the same room where Silent Hill 3, Heather and Douglas first stop at when they arrive to Silent Hill. They stop in this hotel room to figure out their game plan. Douglas says he's going to go try and find Leonard's house. He tells Heather, you go check out Brookhaven Hospital. So this is where Douglas and Heather first sort of arrive and set up base in Silent Hill 3. And we've even got Douglas's hat sitting on the chair right over here. And you can't see it yet. You can barely see a tiny little glimpse of it. But we'll come back later. There's a halo of the sun from Silent Hill 3 painted on the wall behind this wallpaper that's coming off. When we come back here for the other world, this will be more peeled away so that it reveals more of that symbol. Web Talks. Does this imply that somehow Silent Hill 2 is a prequel to Silent Hill 3? No. I think this is one of those things that's meant to be a fun Easter egg for people who know Silent Hill 3. Because there's going to be plenty of people where the Silent Hill 2 remake is their first Silent Hill ever. And they're not going to know what any of this is. This feels more just like a fun thing for players. If you know what it is, you know what it is. I don't think it's meant to have a story implication that, Silent Hill 3 already happened, which is why this stuff would be here. Douglas's hat being left here, it just feels more like a reference rather than an implication of timeline. But I'm sure a lot of fans will disagree, and alter their timelines and do the mental gymnastics to make that work. Yeah, Silent Hill 2, we were just talking about Ito's commentary about it, that the game is supposed to take place sort of late 70s, early 80s, which doesn't line up with Silent Hill 3 at all. There's also implications in Silent Hill 3. Douglas talks about having been to Silent Hill on a missing persons case, and that it was years ago when he was still an active police detective. And it's not stated outright, but the implication is that the missing person was James, that Douglas went to Silent Hill to find, and he says never did find the guy. So it's one of those interesting things, but I think it's just an Easter egg. I don't think it's meant to be... This room is not meant to be like, oh, Silent Hill 3 already happened. It's just... I think it's just an Easter egg. Fun thing for the fans. Not to be taken literally, face value.
Hey, why'd you do that? Can you let me in?
All right, chat. We've got a couple of dialogue options here. Do we let Maria in, or do we let herself in? Because it will change your dialogue. Ignore her? No, and ignore her discussion about the dress? I'm going to listen to my wife. I'm going to do what Rachel said. We're going to ignore her, and we're going to ignore her discussion about the dress. So, because we're ignoring it, I'll just point it out first. There is classic Maria's outfit from the OG. Boots and everything. Again, fun little Easter egg here. But we're not going to talk to her about it. So there's the sound of her climbing in.
I prefer the door next time, thank you.
Okay.
Not really dressed for burglary.
We get that dialogue. Feels like we're stuck. She says it's going to be fine, but the math don't lie. The numbers are all there. All rooms need to be refurnished. Then we got to multiply that by the cost of labor. Then there's the plumbing in the rooms upstairs. I swear there are times when I just want to give up. I'm not 33 anymore. Me neither. If we can make it all add up, maybe there's hope for the 5 of us. So, all rooms multiply rooms upstairs times 33 add 5. So all the capitalized parts of the note. So first we need to go add up all of the room numbers and then multiply that by just the upstairs rooms times 33, so multiplied by 33, and then add 5 to that, I think. All right, now let's get out of here quick and not talk about the dress.
Hey, you think I'd look good in this one?
Oh? Oh, there's... Huh. Maybe you have to, like, look at her for a bit there? There's another little line I was expecting to get there. I'm sure it's not going to happen now. Yeah, Rachel showed me this one. Huh, maybe I left too quickly. Because she was still, like, saying her first line. But yeah, normally she'll have another little comment there. We'll save that for another playthrough, I guess. But there's a few different variations of your dialogue and exchange with Maria there, depending on if you let her into the room or not, if you acknowledge the dress or ignore her. Oh boy. Okay. I've got my handy dandy notebook. And a pencil. So we have 101. 102, 103. 104, 105, 106. That's all the downstairs rooms. I'm assuming this one still counts even though the mattress is blocking it. So 108. Also, that's not usually how you mark rooms in a hotel that has like stairs. Usually these would start with a 2. You'd have like 100s on the bottom, 200s upstairs. But that would mean that this is 107. We have 101 through 108. And that should be everything here. It gives you 4 X's on the back of the note as well, just to imply that it is a 4-digit combination. We should be getting a 4-digit solution. So all rooms multiply rooms upstairs. So first, I guess we'll just add 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, and 106, which would be 621. And then upstairs is just 107 and 108, which would be 215. This might not be how you do this, but like I said, this is my first playthrough on Hard Riddle. I vaguely know how hard riddles and stuff work, but first time solving them myself. Times 33. All rooms multiply rooms upstairs. That's going to be way too big of a number. 621 times 215? Yeah, that's way too big. And then multiply by times 33? Add 5. All rooms multiply rooms upstairs. Times 33. Could multiply the number of rooms, but let's see, that would be 6 on the bottom. And 2 on the top. 8 in total. So 8 rooms multiplied by the 2 rooms upstairs, which would just be 8 times 2 for 16, times 33, which would be 528, plus 5 would be 533. That, I think, might be it. And then we just add a 0 to make it 4 digits. Let me make a save, actually. Go zone out again. Sorry, Maria. So, we got 533. Add a 0. Or put the 0 at the beginning. 533. Okay. Hard riddles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you just saved my life back there.
Glad I did.
Yeah. So am I.
James, like, barely responsive to what's even going on. Glad I did. Didn't even say anything after the first line. Are you still going for melee only, or does that not count? I was looking over the achievements and stuff because I'm on PS5, which my wife also has already done several playthroughs on. So she's already gotten, I think Rachel's already gotten the melee only, because she did a playthrough with the chainsaw. So I don't think I have to worry about that one. White Claudia time? Oh yeah. Because I'm less familiar with the new endings. For the Bliss ending, I know I need... It's like a little box and a key for that box. And I don't know off the top of my head where they are. No, you're good, Phoenix. I'm not too concerned with like backseating. And in fact, that's what I was just going to mention. Like, to make sure that I don't mess up the endings. Let me know if I'm about to like pass up a New Game Plus ending item. If there's something I'm missing. You're absolutely welcome to backseat me on that. I want to make sure I pick up that white Claudia. I need to get that box. Need to get that key for the box. Which ending going for? So I'm going for UFO ending, dog ending, rebirth ending, and Bliss ending. Along with in water, so that next playthrough I can go for stillness.
Wait, James, it's the wrong way.
I'm exploring. But yeah, we should be able to cover basically everything except the stillness ending on this playthrough, as long as I don't screw up.
You startled me, James.
Think you're good until you get to the scene where you lock yourself behind the gate in the big combat segment. That sounds about right. I know I need to get the other half of the dog key before that for sure. That was one of the things that I missed on my no commentary Japanese language playthrough. For those of you who watched that on YouTube, all 500 of you. I definitely messed up that ending because I got to a point of no return and missed the other half of the dog key. A lot of billboards here recreated from the original game. Neighborhood cafe, rich fragrance, espresso fascinates you. Let's see how consistent this is. Usually when I'm exploring this little part right here, Maria will start asking questions about Mary, and James will talk about how she used to play piano. I'm curious if we'll trigger that here, or if that's like more random. Pet center, vaccine clinic, T's Italian restaurant.
James?
Ah, there it is.
Your wife, what was she like? Or is... Sorry, I'm not...
That's fine. Why do you ask?
Just curious.
I'm not sure I want to talk about it.
Oh, come on. You said we look alike? At least give me something.
Well, she liked to play the piano. I'm not sure if you're really that much alike.
Oh? I don't strike you as the pianist type?
Let's just leave it.
Sure, James.
Again. So just like before, Maria's kind of trying to prompt James to open up more, to talk about Mary, to think about it. She is working to break him out of his delusion, just like everything else in the town. That is the ultimate goal, either from James's subconscious, or if you think the town is sentient, then through the power of the town. Either way that you interpret it, that is what's happening. James is being forced to confront the truth, to open up and break past his delusion. And I like that Maria's dialogue sort of does that in a more direct way with some of these little moments. And that is consistent. That dialogue triggers when walking over here with Maria once you get to the Silent Hill Historical Society sign. I'm pretty sure this is consistently now where I've had that dialogue happen on my previous playthroughs. So good to know that a lot of these little interactions and stuff are not super random. They can be triggered through just kind of where you are. That's good news for me. For future playthroughs, that means that I have a specific route that I can take to get the most dialogue. That's going to be very important to know for the future in-depth story playthroughs. Hey, Legate. Good to catch a stream. Sorry I haven't been able to catch the last few. Kind of wanted to get a feel for the remake for myself and not get my opinion swayed either way. That's perfectly fine. I totally understand. I would do the same thing in your position. You got the Silent Hill school bus, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's not like Silent Hill High School. It's not like... Usually a bus gives more information about like the district or the name of the school. There is Midwich. There's Midwich. It doesn't say Midwich school bus on it, does it? It just says Silent Hill school bus. It's a nod to Silent Hill 1, I guess. I mean, school buses exist. There is school buses in Silent Hill 1. And it's something that I point out in my Silent Hill 1 story playthroughs for those who've seen them. Because Midwich itself and the school bus out front are modeled directly after the movie Kindergarten Cop. But yeah. It's not the same bus, by the way. The Kindergarten Cop bus and the Silent Hill 1 bus are bus number 7 and have a slightly different design. It's a different model of bus than what we see here. So this is not the same bus, and it's not a Midwich school bus. Was gonna say maybe a precursor to Silent Hill 1 remake. I mean, if I don't want to dash your hopes, Crook 6, but realistically, I would take all of these things purely as reference, not an indicator. A lot of people see like the Silent Hill 3 room in Jackson, and they're like, oh, this confirms they're doing Silent Hill 3 remake. You'll see the school bus, and there's a lot of fans. Oh, this is a precursor to the Silent Hill 1 remake. I wouldn't take it as that. I would just take it as an Easter egg, a little reference. For the fans who get it, you get it. But don't read too much into it as like confirmation of a remake for the other games or anything. I think it's a little too early to start jumping to those conclusions. Because there are so many people, so many fans who are so convinced already. They're like, when is Born from a Wish coming out? When is the next remake coming out? And it's like, none of that has been even remotely confirmed. Like, there's no guarantee we will get any of those things. So realistically, until there's more information, I would say temper your expectations. Trust me, I'd love to see those things. I would like to see more remakes, More Silent Hill games in general. I would love to see Born from a Wish added in. But there's just no guarantee yet. There's no reason to act like it's already on the horizon.
The wrong way, right?
Yeah, just bear with me, okay?
Whatever you say, big man.
Big boy. Yeah, Bloober right now, their focus is on Chronos the New Dawn. They did say that they had, like, while they were working on Chronos the New Dawn, that game was in production while they were still finishing up Remake. They had different teams dedicated to Silent Hill 2 Remake and Chronos the New Dawn. So Bloober could still have people working on Silent Hill 2 Remake DLC or something else while Chronos is being worked on, but to me it seems like now that Remake is out, they probably shifted their focus over to Chronos until that's done. And then maybe we'll get something else, but yeah. Bloober's had a lot of success. They've grown their team quite a bit, so they have the resources to sort of juggle more projects than they used to be able to, so they might be working on that stuff. But again, I don't want people to get their hopes up and then feel disappointed, you know? Like, even aside from new content like Born from a Wish or more remakes, this game already like barely works on PS5 Pro, and it still has issues on PS5 and PC. Like, even without adding new content, there is stuff that kind of needs fixing and patching, and we don't even have confirmation that we'll get any new patches. I think at this point we should just be happy Konami's pulling back from its focus on Pachi slots. True. I'm just happy to have a good new Silent Hill entry after a lot of years of disappointment or nothing. Like, remember, the last Silent Hill thing that I played before this was Short Message.
Thank you, James. I'm not sure I would have made it.
And, like, I don't...
Just stay close.
I don't hate Short Message, but I don't really like it.
Safe for you around, huh?
It's very meh. It's very middling. And the last thing before Short Message was Ascension. And Ascension is the worst thing. There is no argument. I will not be continuing discussion on this. Either you were there for it and you know it's the worst, or you're unaware and you're like, I'm sure it wasn't that bad. It was that bad. It was worse. Whatever you're thinking about Ascension, if you've never seen it or experienced it, whatever you're thinking about it, it's worse than what you're thinking. If you want to go experience it, I watched the whole thing and I tuned in every day and interacted with it for the first month. All of that's archived on YouTube if you want to put yourself through that. But point is, the last few things in the Silent Hill series has been real fucking rough. So the remake, Silent Hill 2 remake, has been like a breath of fresh air after a long time. A long time. Pete's Bowl-O-Rama.
You can wait outside if you want. I'll just look around the place.
Why would I want to wait outside?
I thought you might not want to.
James, if you don't want me around anymore, you can just say it.
No, it's not that. Just a stray thought.
Stray thought? So we had, in the original, Maria makes an excuse, like this bowling alley was more of a significant location in the original game. This is where you would re-encounter Eddie for the first time since the apartments. It's where you would see Laura again. And because Eddie and Laura were in the bowling alley in the original, Maria could not go in. Maria, being a manifestation of the town, means that other real people like Eddie and Laura would not perceive her the same way that James is perceiving her. They would see her as something else, as someone else, or not at all, which would sort of break the illusion. And Maria's aware of that, so she stays outside. She makes up an excuse. She just says, I hate bowling, and stays outside. So we get a little reference to that in the dialogue here. And again, how you interpret that entirely changes the meaning. Is this a reference just for fans to be like, oh, I remember this little callback, like I get it, I get the reference? Or is it supposed to be deeper than that and referencing that these characters are going through loops? James remembers, he has this stray thought from where they did this before, and she wanted to wait outside. And that feeling, that memory is buried in his mind somewhere and resurfaces there, like you can wait outside. But Maria doesn't react the same way. So, I don't know. I feel it's left fairly ambiguous, like how you want to interpret it. If you want it to be supporting the loop theory, if you enjoy the loop theory, then you can include that in your list of loop theory things. If you just feel like it's a reference, little Easter egg, little nod for the fans who remember the original, you can take it that way as well. Neither interpretation really ruins the game or anything. It doesn't take away from the story as it's presented. So I like that. I like that those things are left open and they're not conflicting or contradictory. Hey, what's up with the rack on lane 3? There's some cloth clogging the hood and I can't pull it out. What is that crap? The balls are getting stuck by the end of the lane, so I guess it goes all the way through the underlane. I tried to push it with a pin, but I can't. I can't push the pin in there. I tried both sides. It's blocked. I can't. Itchy. Tasty. It's interesting the way the notes are written as well. It seems like people are sort of realizing the town is changing. Like, the cloth is there for James. The white cloth is meant to represent, like, bandages and bed sheets, things that invoke the idea of Mary in the hospital. It's things that are supposed to be little reminders for James, just like almost everything is. His subconscious is trying to get him to remember and recall those things, break out of his delusion. So everything is sort of referential to the truth. But it's interesting seeing a note like that. Like, was there actually somebody here and they start seeing the town change? Like, as James is approaching, the town starts changing in front of them. Like, where did this fabric start coming from? And their, like, mental faculties start deteriorating in the process of writing the note. Like, they're more aware of it and writing more concise about it at the start of the note. But then by the end of the note, it's just like, it's blocked. It's interesting. Very, very weird way to kind of present those notes and information. But I like it. Been watching your previous playthrough, but do you think the occurrence at Owl Bridge 2 poster, the return to Owl Bridge, a search for a happier ending, is what the movie poster says? We'll be getting to the theater in a little bit, and we'll talk a lot about those posters. I don't think Mouse or Madness, those things are necessarily pointing directly to a loop theory. It's a reference to an actual story called An Occurrence at Owl Bridge. The same way the OG has references to The Shining and, various other horror media that inspired and influenced Silent Hill in general. So if you like the loop theory and you want to look at those sort of things as a loop theory reference, you can. But otherwise, I sort of just take it as, the same way having a poster of Jack Nicholson's face in the OG, which is sort of in this as well. It's not actually him, but similar. Similar yet legally distinct. Oh. Safe in the bowling alley. This is a New Game Plus thing, isn't it? I don't remember this. I don't think I opened that safe on previous playthroughs.
Huh. Ugh. This town's full of monsters. Who could just sit here and eat pizza?
He said the thing. Kind of. Close enough. Again, really nice little callbacks to the original, just like this. There's mold on that pizza. They're called mushrooms. I guess mushrooms are fungus, like a lot of mold. So again, like, do you take this at face value? Literally, original Silent Hill 2 happened here in a separate loop 20 years ago, and this stuff has just never moved? But, like, this is different. Like, the seats and tables are not the same, but the pizza location stayed and molded. Again, I feel things are referential to the fans, to the players, more than literal hints at story and lore. But that's just how I interpret it. If you want to interpret it as evidence of loop theory, feel free. I'm not going to argue. Maybe the bowling alley got renovated between loops. Yeah. Eddie ate the pizza in the OG, and then they renovated the bowling alley. They set aside Eddie's pizza box. They repaired and replaced everything, and then put the same pizza box with its crust right back where it was and left it there to mold for 20 years, despite the fact that we just read a note supposedly from this janitor who was trying to get this cloth out of the lanes, and he never thought to pick up the pizza box in 20 years. They were scared to not mess up the original, I guess. I think that's also part of it. Not necessarily scared to mess it up, but they knew if they were going to change things, they still needed to reference the original of what they changed. So I feel like that's why we get things like seeing the old dock under the water at Rosewater Park, seeing Eddie's Pizza still sitting here, being able to still come through the bowling alley even though Eddie and Laura are not here anymore. I think that's more in service of the players rather than the narrative within the game. Maybe he was eating moldy pizza all along, thus the vomiting. We only see him vomiting in the apartments. We don't see him throw up after this in the OG. And yeah, I think the implication is more that he's throwing up over the dead body. Whether or not he's responsible for it, I would say
There's more of them.
we could somewhat debate. If the guy in the fridge was one of Eddie's victims, one of the manifestations that he killed, and he was just being more he was just lying more overtly to James about not being responsible for it? Or did he genuinely just come across the dead body, wasn't expecting it, started throwing up? Stazen. Thank you so much for gifting a sub to Clef the Mouse. Very much appreciate the support. Thank you, thank you. The part where she shows the outfit and asks what you think seems like a self-aware insert. Yeah. The game is littered with stuff like that. It feels more like fan service than something to be taken literally as part of the narrative. The game is kind of a blend of things that enhance the story and enhance the characters, the narrative as it's being revealed. And then there's a lot of stuff that it's just fan service. It doesn't necessarily need to be any deeper than that.
Again.
Her new outfit was actually an old design of Maria's outfit. Yep, I made a video pointing that out about a month before Silent Hill 2 Remake came out, because there was a lot of fan criticism of her new outfit, but this outfit is very, very similar to Takayoshi Sato's original concept art. Pseudopoint, I'm not sure if you're familiar with me or my YouTube and stuff, but
Hey,
A lot of the stuff you're talking
I'm all
about,
for
I
taking
have
the scenic
covered.
route, but we're not getting any closer to where we want to be. Just so you know.
I know.
This road actually leads out of town.
I know.
I know.
I felt that maybe she could be around here somewhere.
Did you now?
But yeah, Pseudopoint. A lot of the stuff that you are bringing up in chat are things that I have covered in previous videos and streams. Always happy to see more fans aware of these cool little details.
Yeah, has been for a while.
You know what's in there?
Not sure. I'm not even sure when was the last time anyone's been inside.
Little commentary there from Maria as we try to get into the Historical Society early. Not even sure when the last time somebody was inside. Which was modeled from Christina Aguilera. So the original Takayoshi Sato outfit was not designed around Christina Aguilera. The first concept art was just Sato's impressions of the character. It wasn't until they modeled the actual in-game character models, which wasn't done by Sato. That was done by Shingo Yuri. Shingo Yuri modeled the in-game variation based on Christina Aguilera's 1999 Teen Choice Awards outfit. But yeah, that's where the design sort of evolved. But in the very earliest concept art done by Sato, it was like a dress with a jacket over it, kind of similar to this. Watched the Deep Lores on Restless Dreams channel and found your Twitch channel. Nice. Shoutouts to Dorian, aka Broken Pines, who was here earlier, might still be in chat, who runs the Restless Dreams channel. Was handling a lot of my archives and stuff for a while before I've got my own YouTube channel up and going again.
Oh, God. Did the monsters get him?
Maybe. Doesn't make much difference now.
Yeah.
Bloody note. I can leave by not leaving. I can only leave by not leaving. The deal is done. He said he left it for me. Where they once were. 1887. Oh. I wonder if that's for the bowling alley. So, you hear that sound effect? Mannequin legs sound effects and impact noises. There's nothing visually there. And that'll be something I want to check out with the free cam. So in the original Silent Hill 2, when you run down this road, there are mannequin legs that are like sitting off over in the grass, and they launch themselves out into the street and then attack you. That doesn't happen in the remake, but they still reference it by having these mannequins suddenly appear. You hear their noise, you hear the impact of them hitting the ground. So they reference that from the original, just in this little moment here. Cool little detail. I'm sad we don't still see them like fly through the air, but I understand why. It is very silly looking in the original. And I guess they didn't want to have something, you know, so goofy in this. Mauser Madness says, I've gone through your YouTube videos and the only thing I haven't seen you go over is the PSP motion comic. Did I miss it? So I did actually do a stream of the Silent Hill experience. This was a long time ago, maybe 2016 or 2017. But my capture card at that time was not playing nice with my PSP. Because I had like an actual PSP with the component out cables and a physical copy of the Silent Hill experience that has that motion comic in it. So that stream was not archived just because the visuals and everything were fucked up. The quality was not very good. Since then, I've moved. I was living in Texas at the time. I'm living in Georgia now. So that PSP and my copy of the Silent Hill experience, all that stuff is still back in Texas. So eventually when I get that again, for sure, I'll do another proper, quality capture. Not really a playthrough, but we'll go over the Silent Hill experience. For those who don't know what the Silent Hill experience is, you don't know what I'm talking about. There was a PSP release called the Silent Hill Experience that was basically just a collection of comics, artwork, music, some interviews, a lot of cool little like media package thing that came out back in the day for the PSP. It's got some interesting stuff on it. Most of it you can find online in better quality anyway. Like the Fukuro video, the Kinoko and Usagi music videos, the comic books and all that stuff. It's all archived elsewhere separately online in higher quality now, but it's still a cool little piece of Silent Hill history for the PSP. Definitely something I'll, once I have it again, we'll take a look at it. But yes, that's why that is missing compared to all of my other things, all my other playthroughs. That's one of the few that I don't have archived anymore. Oh, let's check that combination. Let's see if that's for the safe in the bowling alley. Hey, Yasha. Haven't seen you stream in forever. You're in Texas, right? And in a band. You definitely haven't seen me stream in forever. I guess technically I'm still in a band. I just haven't performed or written any new music in like 20 years, but Longboy still lives. Hirimi, the other half of Longboy, and Non-Binary G, who's our producer, is probably here in chat. And yeah, I moved from Texas to Georgia to be with my then girlfriend, now wife, about 4 years ago. But I'm still here. We're still at it, playing Silent Hill. And thank you. Thank you for the congrats. 1887. Rusted key. Okay. I believe that's our key for the box that contains the white Claudia. So that's going to be our Bliss ending. I did not acquire it, nor will I be able to do so. However, I can direct you to where it is. You will find it in a place of care. An island of respite in a sea of suffering. I warned you before. This is a commitment. I hope you can see this now. Oh. This is in the safe when I go to the lower level of the hotel. I think it's that safe. When all the mandarins are around. Because that little center area is like an island of respite. Everywhere else is a sea of suffering where all the mandarins are. A place of care. I think it's also the infirmary or like nurse's office, something like that. Hey, Ocean Tornado, welcome. This is the first stream I saw of yours. I've only seen your YouTube videos. Very much enjoy your playthroughs and wish you a speedy recovery on your health. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Glad you could be here for the rare live stream. I'm trying to do my best and stream more frequently so that streams aren't so rare anymore, but you know, health aside, I'm doing my best. Here we go. The original Heaven's Night. You can see here, Heaven's Night moved down here to Rendell Street for the remake. The remake. But this is the original Heaven's Night location. You can even still see the remnants of the neon sign there. Some of the posters.
Huh.
What is it?
Nothing. Just deja vu.
Maria gets deja vu. Remembering Heaven's Night. And we even get the classic camera angle. This was the static camera view when you're leaving Heaven's Night in the original and coming down the stairs. I love that they replicated, since they knew like they were doing away with the static camera system. I'm glad that the memories of the past give you those recreations of some of those static views. Wasn't it a top-down camera? Nope. It is facing the door from that above perspective until you run down to about here, and then it switches to a angle from like out there in the street and follows you this way. After doing a lot of speed running, I've got those camera angles memorized.
I told you there's nothing for us here. Let's head back.
Because the thing with speedrunning Silent Hill 2 original, it's faster to use directional controls than tank controls, and you have to adjust the angle that James is running based on those camera changes. Every time the camera switches, you have to adjust your control over James. So I actually had to relearn speedrunning Silent Hill 2 from the first way I learned it, which was tank controls. Which is how I ran it from like 2015 through 2016. And then directional controls were found to be faster. So I had to relearn directional controls and get used to every single time the camera would switch. So literally every static camera angle of the original game I have memorized for the sake of speedrunning. God, I really like the ambient sound here. The rippling of the fabric through the wind. Every time you come across the blockades, the dirty hospital sheets. Again, referencing Mary. In her hospital bed. Her illness left her with sores and open wounds on her body that would stain the sheets of the bed that she was on. And they're here to remind James of that. Were you a record holder back then? For Silent Hill 2, the highest on the leaderboards, I was second place. So at that time, the world record holder for the most part was a runner by the name of Big Man Japan. Shoutouts to Big Man Japan, by the way, who is also one of the main devs of the Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition project. But yeah, Big Man Japan was the world record holder for Silent Hill 2 OG on PC at the time. And second place for a long time went back and forth between myself and another runner named Orofine. And then was that Funky Orange? I think it was a runner named Funky Orange that first discovered the directional control method being faster than tank. And then that's where I started slipping down the leaderboard because a lot of other runners were much better at adapting to the directional control method. And I'm a little bit too old and stuck in my tank control ways to be as efficient with directional controls. So, and I also just wasn't practicing as much by that point as well. I had started shifting away from less speedruns and more focus on story playthroughs, just because that's what the people wanted. And hey, I enjoy doing it. Tabbed out and listening. I'm a little old and set in my ways. Chainsaw sounds cracked me up. Yeah, out of context, there's some good moments. There's stuff that I forget about or like don't even realize how funny it is until I'm like editing these videos and putting them on YouTube. I'm like, I don't remember saying that. I didn't realize how comedic the timing was of like things that happen sometimes till after the fact. Hey, what's up, Ram Ranch? Ordered pizza. Would have been good if I saw this earlier. Oh, nice. It's all right. I've been streaming for like 3 hours, but you know how it is. I haven't really made that much progress. We spend a lot of time sitting and talking and looking at stuff as is custom for the story playthroughs. It's rare to catch the streams. I know. It's rare that I do the streams these days. I'm trying to get back on track to where I can be live more often. I've been having a lot of issues in real life. Mainly health issues. Nothing... I don't mean to, like, concern people, but I have issues that really affect my voice. So I very easily lose my voice, and sometimes for days at a time, it's very difficult or painful to talk. And I've tried to do streams where I don't use my mic or don't do commentary, and fact is, most people don't want to watch that. Most people watch me to hear my commentary. They want my insight and they want to hear my voice. So it just makes things very difficult when I'm having health issues that affect my voice, affect my ability to stream and do what people, want. So I'm trying to get that in order. For the longest time, I didn't have health insurance, so I wasn't able to really do anything about it, and it just kind of progressed to a point where things got worse. And now I have health insurance, and it's still a struggle to see a doctor and make an appointment and everything here, so it's happening. It's getting dealt with. Just be patient while I'm kind of dealing with stuff, but I am trying to deal with it so that I can stream more frequently and still do stuff as often as I can. So I get it. I know the streams are rare. I'm doing my best. Doing my best. Oh, let's go use the lever. We like hearing your smart words. Thank you. Thank you, Zucchina. I like your funny words, Magic Man. Hope this doesn't sound offensive, but you sound more comfortable speaking now. Some streams I watched 7 years ago, you did not have a lot of tolerance for chat questions. Yeah. Yes. That just comes from more experience streaming over the years. And admittedly, like, I still have days. I still have bad days just like anybody else.
You sure that's a good idea?
Some days I'm less tolerant of, like...
Yeah, it's fine. Just give me a minute.
Stupid chat comments and questions. But yeah, you're right. I've gotten better.
You okay in there?
I've gotten better about that kind of thing.
Can you let me in? So, anything good in here?
As good as it gets.
Yeah, answering a lot of the same comments and questions over the years takes its toll, for sure. But, that's just the nature of streaming. And it's something that you've got to do it for years and years and get used to it. So, like I said, I've got some days where I'm better about it and some days where I'm not. And I hope nobody ever takes it, like, personally. The times where I get frustrated or, kind of snippy in my responses. I never mean it to be, like, mean or rude or anything towards people, but my tone of voice, a lot of times it can be hard to tell when I'm, like, I don't know. It can be hard to tell. It can be hard to tell when I'm being serious and when I'm genuinely kind of upset or frustrated. All right. Mass layoffs at Brookhaven Hospital threaten the institution's future. Some info about Brookhaven in the main news newspaper. The layoffs we reported on last month are continuing. Over 10 people have been let go, which has reduced the hospital staff by more than half. If the situation does not improve, staff shortages will put patients at risk. Brookhaven is a hospital with a long history. It was established in 1810 when a deadly epidemic swept through the Silent Hill area. So we saw the memorial for that in Rosewater Park about the 67 who died of illness. Ever since, it has incessantly brought help to the residents of the town. However, more and more have made their voices heard on how the presence of a psychiatric hospital in the middle of the town has a negative impact on the local community. Residents fear that an incident from 2 years ago might repeat itself. I'm curious what that incident could be. What could we be referencing 2 years ago? And then the psychiatric hospital. So I feel like this is maybe hinting at Walter, like, because you find the note about Walter Sullivan. That's like the incident was Walter killing people around town, killing Billy and Miriam. But it's left open. It's left fairly ambiguous. I like that. And just, I like that Bloober is sort of acknowledging something that fans have also talked about over the years. It's like, so Silent Hill is a tourist town, right? Why do we have in this little tiny tourist town Alchemilla Hospital, which also has a psychiatric wing, Brookhaven Hospital, which is a psychiatric hospital in and of itself, Oak Grove Sanitarium, Cedar Grove Sanitarium, whichever one, in Origins, the sanitarium, which is essentially another psychiatric hospital. It's like, we have all of this in this tiny little tourist town. Is that really necessary? I think that's kind of funny, pointing out, like, residents are concerned about, you know, there's a psychiatric hospital, giant hospital in the middle of town. Might have a negative impact on the local community. Fun way to, like, give you some background, some history, some lore, but also feels like kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of reference there. Made it. Photo number 20. Another part of the you've been here for 2 decades hidden message. Because everyone is sick in Silent Hill, right? Was very impressed with how much passion you could feel in this remake. Same Zucchina. I was probably one of the more skeptical fans when Bloober Team was announced to be the dev team making this, because I played Bloober's games. I did not like a single one of them. I was not a fan of Layers of Fear, not a fan of Layers of Fear 2, not a fan of the remake of Layers of Fear, was not a fan of Blair Witch, was not a fan of The Medium. I did not like their stuff. They did really good visuals, which was fine for like walking simulators. They did good graphics. But like their stories, their characters, their gameplay were not good. And I'll be polite about it. I did not think they were very good. So when it was announced that they were doing Silent Hill 2 Remake, I was like, oh, that sucks. Because the story and the characters and everything are so much more important than the visuals. Like, all of the things that Bloober is bad at are the things that they needed to really excel at to make this work. And like, as somebody who did not like any of their previous things,
Where to now?
I love that reaction.
It's down this way.
Hey, the unenthusiastic yay. I love it. But yeah, I really didn't like their games. I was really kind of not expecting much from them. My expectations were very low. And Bloober, along with having Masahiro Ito and Akira Yamaoka and some other, having that guidance, I think, helped. They managed to pull it off against the odds, I would say. It's not perfect, you know, but it's really damn good. It's leaps and bounds better than what I was expecting. Think Bloober watched your playthrough? I mean, it's always possible. It's certainly always possible. There have been, I can confirm that there were Konami employees, not necessarily Bloober employees, but Konami employees, who have watched my stuff and previously commented on some of my YouTube stuff. But at the very least, like, there are people at Konami who are aware of my channel and watch my stuff. Hi, Konami. Feel free to hire me as a consultant on the next remake. I work for cheap. And just cover my medical bills. White Chrism. So here we are, the Baldwin Mansion, the actual location where Born from a Wish in the original took place. Including one of the rebirth ending items, the White Chrism. When you visit this in regular New Game, this bottle is still here, but it's broken. And then on New Game Plus, you can find it here intact. It says, "I deny thee" on the bottle, which was part of the Crimson Ceremony, which uses the White Chrism, the obsidian goblet, and these phrases were written on the tablets. So in Born from a Wish, in the original, there's a puzzle you have to solve where you collect these 3 tablets, these 3 plates, each representing rebirth ending items: the obsidian goblet, the crimson tome, and the White Chrism. And each one had a different phrase written on it. Let me see if I can actually pull those up really quickly, just to get the full thing. But that's what the writing there, "I deny thee," is a reference to. Yeah, the Acacia Key puzzle. Which has the black, white, and red board. The white board, which represented the White Chrism. Here it is. Whenever you examine it in your inventory in the original, the back of the board reads, "When the white breath is found, I shall dedicate this thing. O Spirit of the Mist, grant us fortune eternal." On the back of the blackboard representing the obsidian goblet, it reads, "When the dark grail is found, I shall dedicate this thing. You who deny death, grant us fortune eternal." And the red board, representing the crimson ceremony, reads, "When the crimson words are found, I shall dedicate this thing. O you gods deep in slumber, grant us fortune eternal." And considering it is just, it's the rebirth ending items. These are items that are, used for a rebirth ritual, something to bring someone back from the dead, or at least something along those lines. It could be a pet cemetery, zombie demon situation. It's never really made specifically clear, but the idea of this is something made to deny death. These items are used for a ritual to deny death. We have "I deny thee"
That liquid.
written right there.
What is that?
Maria comments on it. That liquid, what is that? He doesn't go into too much more detail, but references acknowledgement, at least somewhat. Because again, in the original with Born from a Wish, Maria has to go and find the white chrism. Now, she does that by going from Baldwin Mansion into Blue Creek Apartments in the original Born from a Wish. And since Born from a Wish is not in this remake, at least not as of the time of this recording, it's just sort of referenced, I guess. She asks what it is, but doesn't seem to really acknowledge it beyond that. Some other small details that can be found around here. A lot of Amy Baldwin's toys. So for those who don't know the story of Born from a Wish, there is a subplot about the owner of this mansion, Ernest Baldwin, and his daughter, Amy, who fell out of one of the windows and died from the top floor. And Ernest basically started researching the cult, researching the town's history, and trying to collect the rebirth items himself as a means to bring back Amy. Possibly pseudo point. Ernest was at least aware of the cult and their beliefs and their rituals. He wasn't necessarily part of the cult. That's not confirmed. Think about somebody like Michael Kaufman in Silent Hill 1. He's not a part of the cult, but he knows what a Glophatus is. He knows how their rituals and beliefs work. He's not a member, though. It could be a similar situation with Ernest. He learned about it for the sake of his daughter, what he wanted to perform, this ritual. Wasn't necessarily a member. He does admit to having faith in the ritual, in the sense that he believed it would work because of how the town is. He was at least somewhat consciously aware of the town's power. But it's debatable if Ernest is even real. Ernest could also just be a manifestation, a way for the town to communicate with Maria. Speaking of which, we get some more dialogue with Maria now regarding the Baldwin Mansion.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, it's just... This place just gives me the creeps. I'm not sure why.
You ever been inside?
I'm not sure. It does feel familiar somehow. Like a bad memory. It's nothing, really.
Like a bad memory. Again, implications that to some degree she remembers the mansion. But how much of that are we meant to take at face value? How much is Maria even being completely honest with us right now? Because again, if we go off of the original game, Maria was fully aware of her previous life, of what she was, of who James was, of what he did. Here she seems to be more genuinely oblivious. So is it just, you know, a nod to the player, a little reference for those who remember Born from a Wish and played the original? Or do you take it to mean something deeper? Ocean Tornado. You said you're trying to gift a sub, but looks like you can't do it without Google Play installed. If you're on mobile, and honestly for anybody on mobile, don't subscribe or gift subs. I know I'm the only stream in the world telling people don't subscribe. Don't subscribe on mobile. It charges you more. Because you actually have to pay your, like, the rates for subscriptions and things are higher because it also charges Twitch, like they're charged to put the app up on the Play Store and everything, and they make up the difference of that by charging more per sub. So it's actually more efficient for you to sub on a browser rather than through mobile. It doesn't affect my cut at all. I still get so, my James, $2.25.
3 years. That's a long time. What will you tell her when you find her?
That I love her.
Oh, then. Lucky her.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. Like I said, 3 years is a long time.
Interesting the way she like describes that too. Because again, if she's aware, like OG Maria, she knows the 3-year timeline is not true. But she remembers being Mary, being sick for 3 years. So the idea of her thinking 3 years is a long time in the context of it's a long time to deal with the illness as well. Not necessarily James, you know, having this 3-year timeline, which, of course, is part of the delusion. Tone sounds less mocking and more genuine there. Yeah. Yeah. Pseudopoint says she's jealous. Sounds like jealous of Mary, even though she is Mary. Maybe not necessarily like, I mean, in a way, jealousy, but yeah, almost a yearning that it could have been, you know, this is still her husband to some degree. and just seeing the way that he's reacting with this new form, this reincarnated version of herself. And yeah, just feeling that desire, that sadness, what could have been. She has her own perspective of it as well. Just there's so many different layers to it. She's a tulpa, just a mental copy of Mary. I love when people start bringing in terminology to refer to it. Like, if you're a Twin Peaks fan, you go tulpa. She's a mental copy of Mary. If you're a Carl Jung, if you're into the Jungian psychology side of things, then she is the, I forget what it's called, anima. She's the female side of James, which is what a lot of people call her. I don't subscribe to a lot of that. Maybe it's just because, like, there's a lot of these elements that definitely were part of the creation method, I guess, mental. God, I'm trying to think of the way to phrase it. Team Silent was aware of these things. We know that much from interviews and you know, third-party materials and stuff that have been released since then. But I feel like some people maybe read into it a little too deeply. It's interesting, and I love hearing people's takes and interpretations on it. But there are so many things that I think people give an unnecessary amount of depth to. And again, I'm guilty of this for many years. I actually want to make a video. I've been debating with myself if I make this video or not. I want to make a video discussing media literacy and how to logically analyze information when it comes to these games. Because it's something that I had to learn as a fan of this series for 25 years. Yeah, I know tulpa's a real thing, but the 99% of the time, if someone uses that word, they're a Twin Peaks fan. In regards to, like, talking about Silent Hill. Anyway, I want to make a video. I said I debated about making a video where just talking about how to analyze information. It's something that I've had to myself learn over the many years of being a fan of this franchise, because I also used to overthink everything. And it takes a lot to admit you're wrong, and it's very difficult once you've set your mind into thinking about something one way to shift it and think about it a different way. And I feel like a lot of fans who maybe haven't had the same amount of experience with the franchise and researching it and analyzing it the way that I have, maybe still struggle with that. And it's something that I think a lot of the community could benefit from, because the way that you analyze and interpret information, it changes a lot depending on how much information you have. So if you're going off of, like, only certain points of things that are in the games and only certain things that developers have said or certain supplementary materials, you might get one impression. But for example, one thing I bring up in talking about this, there are some Silent Hill content creators who have, like, hours long analysis videos talking about, like, the biblical references and meaning behind the character names. James Sunderland. James is this character, and it's a reference to this biblical figure that represents, this aspect of, whatever, innocence, or, Laura means this, Maria means that. People who very deeply analyze things like that. And if all you know is the games and interviews from developers that shows that they were aware of religion and include a lot of aspects of religion and Bible verses, if that's the only information you have, then I can understand coming to that conclusion. What I've done is listen to Jeremy Blaustein talk about how he just made the names up. Sunderland was the name of a town near where he grew up. Jeremy Blaustein, by the way, was the translator, localization lead, casting director. He directed the actors, because all the actors for the original Silent Hill 2, like, they're all English speakers. So Jeremy was interpreting the direction from the Japanese devs and directing the cast. Like, Jeremy Blaustein deserves a lot more credit than what he gets. Most people are just like, he's just a translator, and write him off. Jeremy did so much for the Silent Hill games and definitely deserves a lot more credit and respect. And Jeremy just came up with the names. Like, it was just, it's not that deep. It's not. And there's a lot of things in the franchise that are like that it's not as deep as people want it to be. And I can appreciate that a lot of fans will delve into those deeper, ways of interpreting things, but sometimes it's just not there. It's just not something that's really there. And I feel like a lot of the deeper elements of, like, Jungian psychology that a lot of fans read it as, I think is sort of overthinking it. The psychology elements are definitely there, like the themes are there and sprinkled throughout. And even here in the remake, Bloober references some of that stuff more directly than even the original did. But I don't necessarily buy that was thought about that deeply by the original devs, And that, again, that is coming from decades of experience of analyzing these games, where I also used to overthink those things and had to relearn how to analyze the information and get a more realistic and grounded idea of how game development works, And I got that over the course of reading and watching and listening to many, many interviews from, people like Jeremy. Jeremy, I think, is one of the best people in terms of interviews to make things realistic and a little more grounded. He puts a lot of things into a much more realistic perspective in terms of just game development. Somebody who's been in the game industry for like 40 years. Jeremy is super knowledgeable on those kind of things. So I trust his opinions and his statements and stuff like that. And yeah, it's something that a lot of fans have to take into consideration. So that's why I thought about making a video. Maybe I'll do that video where I just talk about how I analyze information, kind of the different layers of information, because for me, I sort of look at it as multiple tier lists, like a tier list of what is most reliable to what is least reliable in terms of information. Most reliable, top of the tier list, is things that are in the game. A note, a memo, a bit of dialogue, a cutscene, stuff that is directly in the game. So that is source number one for information. Source number 2 for information would then be supplementary material. That's your guides, your things that were posted on the website, all of the things that were supplementary to the game, but not necessarily written by the original team, like even the game manuals and things like that. Those were supplementary materials. They weren't necessarily penned by, Owaku himself. They just get some random intern to make like the books and the guide that goes into the case, the manuals. So it is still a good source of information, but it's less reliable than things that are in the game directly. And then you have developer commentary, which, again, developers are human. They misremember things. They lie. One of the fun things, I just brought up Jeremy Blaustein. I will also say Jeremy Blaustein has been wrong in interviews. He gave a wrong answer about like the source for the whisper. There's an iconic whisper sound effect in Silent Hill 2. It's in the OG and it's in the remake. Jeremy gave a wrong explanation for what that whisper was, but it was based on his best guess of what it could have been. But it was wrong. It was proven to be wrong. So even developers like him, who I put a lot of faith into what they say, are not always accurate. People like Ito, I really respect Ito and a lot of the information that he gives, but he gets things wrong. He misremembers. He doesn't convey what he's trying to say in English accurately all the time. So there's a lot of context that's important to how you analyze information.
Strange. This should not be here.
Well, it is. So, what now?
Now we look for another way.
Come on.
James?
Goodbye, wooden plank. Hello, steel pipe. And goodbye, steel pipe. Because I have a chainsaw.
Stay close.
Real quick, while it's about to get loud and hectic. FM Bearden, thank you so much for gifting out 5 subs to the community. Phantom Cigar, Way of Heaven, Stazen, Nightwalker, OP Lurker, enjoy the subs. And Beard, thank you so much for the 40 months and the 6 months in advance. Thank you so much for all the love and support. That is insanely generous. Ocean Tornado, thank you so much for the 1,000 bits. And Ross Favor, thank you so much for the 100 bits. Really, really appreciate all the love and support, you guys. Thank you so much. Is the fence a point of no return? Yeah. So that's why I wanted to make sure I didn't miss the dog key this time around, because once you go through here, there's no going back. so hit or miss with the lock on and everything. The auto targeting. I never get tired of seeing the mannequins do the quadruple backflip after the QTE. Maria, let's play table tennis. Uh-oh. Maria? Maria? Oh.
Over there.
That line delivery when she says over there sounds so similar to the OG when you're going to Brookhaven. When you're approaching Brookhaven and you see Laura going inside. And Maria like points towards Laura and goes, over there. Really, really similar delivery there. All right. Heaven's Night. I wish this was a little more emphasized like the original. James trying to peek over the shoulder when she pulls the key out of her shirt. He still does it. But again, the camera angle here is so boring. The cinematography could have been better to emphasize that interaction. Little things, little nitpicks. Music is great though. And in terms of the remake, like a lot of the new scenes or like expanded scenes, I guess. I mean, everything here in Heaven's Night is basically all new cutscenes and interactions. This is probably like my favorite addition to the remake. I really like the new Heaven's Night. Just the atmosphere, the music, the interaction, the cutscene with him and Maria. Out of all the things that they added, more and more, I'm like, damn, Heaven's Night is so good now. Yeah, Zucchina. A few people have been kind of asking about, like, what are my favorite things about the remake? Things that they changed or added. You can hear Maria there, like, getting all the lights, struggling to get the stage and stuff ready for her little moment. Get another photo here, ready to kill it. Part of the 2 decades hidden message. Also, a lot of people maybe don't catch this or realize it. Shattered Memories reference. How many people picked up on the Silent Hill Shattered Memory reference here? So there is a gentleman's club that you can walk through in a segment of Silent Hill Shattered Memories. And you see, like, the makeup counters and stuff like that for the dancers, the strippers. And some of the things that are on there are, like, drawings and things from the dancers' children. So you have that same thing here. I love you, Mom. Like, pictures of Mom dancing or laying in bed. Little, I feel like that's a little nod to that moment in Shattered Memories. Some of the same things that you find. Kitty cat. I wonder what developer, like, that's got to be somebody on Bloober Team's cat, right? That kitty cat. Speaking of which, potentially photos, once we get the free cam for the next playthrough, we'll be able to look at all this stuff right up close, see it in more detail. Because there's a lot of great little details. Little flyer here that says anxiety. You find various things like that, kind of referencing James's condition. More pet photos, potentially photos of real people. And calendars. Again, something that a lot of fans try to kind of use calendars and things like this in the environment to narrow down an exact date or time frame that things are happening. But I don't think that's necessarily true, like an accurate way to infer information. Because again, who's to say that the Silent Hill universe calendar years are the same as in our own reality? Pete's Bolorama, Dance Company, Heaven's Night. Gotta come back for Wild Wednesdays. Isn't that today? It is Wednesday. Happy Wild Wednesday, everybody. Get some Toluca Light. And some grape soda. And some something sweet soda. Diet sweet soda. It is Wild Wednesday, my dudes. The light with the mannequin legs. Just for a moment there. Arcade games. Defenders of the Horizon. Trample. Okay. So again, like, you want to talk about time period and technology? It took a little after the 70s before arcade games looked anything like this. Like, if it was late 70s, these would be fucking Pong machines. You know, you'd barely have arcade machines like this. Even into the 80s, things like this wouldn't be until like mid to late 80s, where you start getting like Defenders of the Horizon. That's gonna be like Space Invaders, right? Space Invaders arcade release. Well, fuck me. That was 1978. I stand corrected. I didn't realize it was that early. I figured that was into the 80s. I retract my statement. They were definitely not as common until the 80s, but... There are so many good details here. Like, there's a lot of stuff in Heaven's Night, and it's gonna unfortunately have to wait until like the cam hack playthrough, the next playthrough, to really look at it close enough to like analyze it and talk about it the way I want to. There's so many cool things in Heaven's Night. The classic Paradise neon sign, which is funny. It's slightly redesigned compared to the original, but the main features of it are still there. Something that I saw like people pointing out. I saw like, oh, someone was complaining about the sign, like, oh, we've got to show that a woman is fat, or I saw someone commenting that they made her fat and that they made her pregnant, talking just about this neon sign, not about any character or anything in particular. The original does the same thing. Like, Maria herself has a belly. It was an intentional part of her character design to infer that she is a healthier version of Mary, who was withering away from disease. Maria specifically, like, developers commented on Maria's design, that she has a little bit of a muffin top, that she is not perfect. Takayoshi Sato specifically talks about this in the Making of Silent Hill 2 documentary, where it's more realistic to have a character who's not perfect, because that's how it is in real life. And they wanted to emphasize certain things about Maria, that she is a healthier version of Mary, so she has a little bit of belly. And that's reflected in the Paradise sign. It's supposed to represent Maria. And then you had stupid people blowing up over it. Oh, look, they made it woke. They gave her a belly. Like, come on. People are something else. And clearly not fans of the original.
Maria?
What? Oh, come on, don't give me that look. I was just kidding.
What is this? Is this a special place you met?
Don't be silly. Just have to go through and out the front. Then again, now that we're here, can't we stay? Just for a little while. Catch our breath before we head back out there.
I don't have time to take a break. Mary could be out there, waiting for me.
I know. It's just... this place, this whole thing, it's like a nightmare. I just wanted to get away from it, even for a second. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I guess this place is getting to me, too. Am I crazy? You know, for thinking she could be here.
Crazy is one word for it, I guess. I can think of another.
What's that?
Hopeful.
Well, that's a nicer way of putting it.
Here.
What are you doing?
Something to take the edge off. No? You sure? Fine. Be that way. Here's to hope undying.
We should probably get going.
Fine. Ready when you are.
Great scene. As far as like new scenes added, there's so much to talk about with it. The change in Maria's tone, like very clearly being manipulated. James's performance, like Luke Roberts does such a great performance there. Like where James is on board, he's kind of going along with it, and then you can see, like you see him, his mind immediately go elsewhere. And it's so well acted, even without dialogue, even without James saying anything. You pick up so much from being there with Maria and interacting with her, to being reminded of Mary and thinking of her, having the alcohol put in front of him, and really looks like he is struggling, like that internal conflict, because he's remembering, I used to drink, I was drinking, but why? Why was I drinking? What drove me to that point? What did I do afterwards? The truth is part of it. Breaking out of his delusion is part of it. And that little hint about the alcohol starts making him have to think about these things. And you can see his mind, even without any dialogue, sort of, here's the idea, here's this. It's so good. It's so good. Maria is literally being a temptress, trying to convince him that this is okay. It's so good. Except for the camera angles. The whole time watching it, it's just, you have these very flat shots back and forth between James at the bar and Maria. Those are the only minor complaints about a lot of the cutscenes, is the cinematography of them is just kind of bland. But the performances are what keep me engaged. Even though that aspect is not great, the performances are so good that it still is a very good scene. Visually, it's just a little bit boring. And even then, like, there are still some really fun things included in the visuals. So your perspective of Maria standing on the stage, she has Dream lit up in neon right above her head, like right next to her head. And she is born from a wish. She is essentially kind of a dream. Things in general in Silent Hill are very dreamlike, but having Dream right next to her in that context even kind of emphasizes sort of her true nature, what Maria really is. There's another really good detail here. This neon sign in the hallway that reads "Kiss." In the reflection, I gotta switch to quality mode. Oh man, it still looks like shit. In the reflection, it says "sick." The way "kiss" is stylized, you can see it sort of. The I in "kiss" is like a backwards C. So when you see this in the reflection, it says "sick." So you have all these little references, of course, to Mary's illness, all of these things that are part of James's memory. They're part of his subconscious, part of him getting out of his delusion that's being projected into the environment around him. These little reminders. We also have this nurse outfit. The sexy stripper nurse outfit, but a nurse outfit nonetheless. Was always kind of curious about this one because there's no other dialogue. It's not a flashback. It's not a remnant of the past or anything like that. This could just be foreshadowing to the nurses in Brookhaven. Maybe a reference to nurses in past games like Lisa Garland. Maybe a reference to Eileen's nurse outfit in New Game Plus of Silent Hill 4, which is also like a sexy nurse outfit. A lot of things this could potentially be a little nod to. And again, all this stuff I'm talking about is kind of scratching the surface. There are so many cool little details in stuff that we kind of need the cam hack to see. So we'll talk about those in the next playthrough when we've got the free cam. Let me see if I can find some of these that we can talk about. Heaven's Night. Yeah, some of these posters. Woman's face with the hand there, and it says lost. Down there in the bottom left. Lost? Some initials or writing. Something on this one. Again, once we have the free cam, it'll be much easier to point out some of the cool details on these posters.
Is that you?
Would you like it to be?
Ooh. So, interesting little quip there. Is that you? Would you like it to be? So, there are Heaven's Night posters found in the bathroom, in the very first place where you start. And it's a Heaven's Night poster with Maria's face on it. Undoubtedly Maria's face. Undeniably Maria's face. And that is something that was in the original as well. Foreshadowing to that. And Silent Hill 3 has Heaven's Night posters that resemble those, but Maria is completely different looking. It's a woman with long black hair instead. More reminiscent of Alessa, because that's Heather's game. That's her whole thing. So the perception of these things changes depending on who's looking at it. And that little line from Maria, do you want it to be, says it all. Not to mention foreshadowing the exchange when you get to the labyrinth later on. The, are you Mary? Are you Maria? All I want from you is an answer.